Hello, India, and welcome to the final episode of this season's Kiska brand Bajega Industry Titan. In this episode, we feature the brand, which is Silicon Valley's top tech giant and world's leading social media brand. Yes, it's none other than Facebook, a global brand that is reaching the Indian consumers like no other and bringing the world closer with its supreme in-app features and innovations. Facebook today is a hotspot to modern-day marketing, and its local marketing campaigns in India, like More Together, have truly impacted the lives of several big and small businesses. Thus, presenting the visionary of our times, Mr. Ajit Mohan, Vice President and Managing Director, Facebook India. Ajit, welcome to Kiska brand Bajega. You've had a unique and exciting journey so far. From being born and raised in a small town of Kerala and spending your teenage years in close community to stepping onto the foreign soil and working with top consulting companies like McKinsey and Arthur D. Little. Fast forward to being the torchbearer for launching Hotstar in 2015 and landing an integral role at Silicon Valley's top tech company, Facebook. Ajit, what were your key learnings while working in such diverse roles?
There's been such massive level of enterprise and entrepreneurship that's happened in the last 25, 30 years. The big delta for me, this was true in 2008 when I came back, but nothing like what it is today and what we have seen, especially in the last 5 years or so, is the opportunity for ideas in India, for original ideas in India, to truly provide a model for the world. I think this is a country which has had a track record of entrepreneurship that is quite rooted in our history. But the combination of the massive expansion that's happened in the internet, the respect for entrepreneurship, all of that have come together, I think, to create a context in which entrepreneurs in India now can aspire to build global companies, can aspire to create business models, and aspire to translate their ideas to reality in a way that is relevant for the world that probably was not as true 25, 30 years ago. So I do think the point that I'm making about the canvas for entrepreneurship and the opportunity to build business models that are global in nature stands. I think the other one, to what you call out about my personal learning, Aditya, is more and more, if I look back over the last 25 years or so, the sheer return on impact of being bold on big disruptive ideas keeps going up dramatically. I think that the premium for individuals and leaders and entrepreneurs to have an idea that does not pay respect to history, that does not pay too much attention to the legacy of something like this hasn't happened before, therefore it will not happen. That's the big shift. And I've seen it time and again. I have a couple of stories, Aditya, that I can share with you, different parts of my career. I remember this was around 2006, 2007. I had a client in the media industry and as a consultant, and the project that we spent a lot of time on was trying to figure out how to match supply and demand for physical DVDs in the US, right? When there are big movies, especially blockbusters during holiday seasons, how do you make sure that you can get the right amount of DVDs to the right retail stores across the US? Now, I say it because maybe 6 to 9 months after that project was done, you realize that was totally not the problem to solve for, because what we saw was the rise of streaming, right? It no longer was that relevant to figure out, how do you manufacture DVDs and get it to the right outlets. Even Hotstar, I think if I look back on the journey of Hotstar, before Hotstar, there was a service called starsports.com. And today, when you watch IPL on Hotstar, I think everyone kind of says, but of course, cricket would have been big. But what I remember is in 2012, when we were launching starsports.com, which was the precursor service, there weren't too many believers who believed that people would watch live sports on a small mobile screen. And no surprise, I do think that in many ways, Hotstar bucked the trend for traditional media companies, where there was this idea that it was all about content, and you did not have to move towards being a product or tech company. And Hotstar said, actually, no, the future of television is very much rooted in tech. So I do believe, and of course, I think I'm working today for a company that has shown time and again that when you take big bets on innovation, the impact that you can have is massive. So for me, that's the big learning, that the opportunity to look at big ideas that are quite different from anything that may have happened in the past, and to convert that into a real institution and have massive impact, that opportunity, the canvas of that opportunity keeps getting larger and larger, and in large parts enabled by technology.
Perfect. Well said. Exactly a year back, Ajit, during the last lockdown, we saw two big entities join hands when Facebook bought a 9.9 stake in India's largest mobile network, Jio. What is the way forward and the vision behind this deal, Ajit, and its impact on India as a market?
You're absolutely right in saying when you look at the internet ecosystem in India, there is a pre-Jio and a post-Jio. And for me, launching Hotstar in early 2015 and seeing the launch of Jio in late 2016, you could almost see the inflection point on the numbers every day. So I have lived through what you framed as the pre and post. And I think in many ways that goes to the heart of the partnership, that there's alignment between the two companies, where we saw in Jio a company that had massively created a positive disruption in India in a way that I don't think there is a parallel in the world, by creating an economic model for access to high quality, affordable 4G that completely changed the internet landscape in India. That was the starting point. And the more we talked about it, it was very clear that the two companies could not be more aligned on that mission, and especially on how that mission plays out in India. We have more than 700 million people who have come online, but there's still another 400, 500 million people to go. And that's one. I think the second part that we saw was, and it goes to, in some ways, my answer to the first question. I think both are companies that believe in taking big, bold bets on things that can not just create wins for themselves, but for the ecosystem as a whole. And the partnership that we announced with Jio, the one between JioMart and WhatsApp, is an example of what a win-win partnership can be, where it's actually a big win for the ecosystem. In this case, for the 60 million small businesses, where we believe that when we're able to connect the dots between an app like WhatsApp, which is deeply immersed in India, all of us probably look at WhatsApp as our first act and our last act before we go to bed. And Jio's infra, between both Jio and the retail businesses of Reliance, in terms of all of the efforts to digitize the Kirana store, that here was an opportunity not just to make it easier for consumers to order from their local Kirana store through WhatsApp, but fundamentally to make it easier for these Kirana store owners to dramatically increase their monthly income. And honestly, if I zoom out and look at it, I think what it's also going to do is open up all of these opportunities for companies and business models that will be serving smaller businesses. I don't think we have even conceived of what that full canvas looks like. And for me, that's the second part in this partnership, that here are two companies that believe that by harnessing our combined ability, we can actually expand the canvas of possibilities for everyone in the internet ecosystem in India, especially the 60 million small businesses.
Exactly. Well said. And even the timing, Ajit, I'd like to say that, in the wake of India's decision to ban TikTok last year and many other Chinese apps, Instagram was quick to launch its own version of Reels, right? Was this an immediate action, a clear step to expand your consumer base, especially from audiences from Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities who are habituated with the short video content creation?
Aditya, Instagram was growing quite dramatically. I think even before the government action and or before the launch of Reels. The launch of Reels was not triggered by an external moment. It was triggered because we kept hearing from creators in particular that they can benefit from more tools, and especially tools that enable the short form video format. And we could also see that the same yearning was there from consumers as well, right? So I think there had been a lot of work going on to build a great short form video product. And it happened that we were able to test it and then launch it at scale quickly. But I think when you talk to product leaders at Instagram, the one thing that they would call out is they're so focused on what makes Instagram special and all the learnings from the last few years, and a particular focus on
audiences. Also, what is Facebook's overall consumer marketing strategy for India as a market?
I think it so spoke to the moment last year that we were coming off the first wave of the pandemic, and in many ways, it was inspired by stories that we were seeing on Facebook. I think to your question, a couple of things to call out. One of the calls that we made, especially over the last 3 years, is there was so much attention and focus on Facebook as a company, especially in the light of scrutiny on big tech companies. But there was so much attention, especially in the media, on a very small minority of things that impact our platform. And while we could see that the vast majority of people on the platform were using it for good, were using it to connect to their friends and family, were using it to build businesses, were using it to create great videos. So our belief was that it was time for us to tell the story ourselves. The story that we were seeing every day on the Facebook app, that's the story that we needed to communicate ourselves. So that kind of sets the context for why you've seen us being more aggressive on the marketing front than we have ever been in the last 15 or 16 years of Facebook. I think the second thing to call out is more together in many ways goes to the core of our mission, right? That there is a deep belief, and this goes to our earlier discussion as well, that it's such a mission-centric company in terms of all of our thinking, all of the products that come out come from this belief that we have a positive role to play in connecting people and communities around the world. And that when you do that, those people, those individuals, those communities come together to create magic. That there is always power in all of us coming together to do things, and that we can all be better for ourselves, for the world around us, that we can do a lot more together than if we were alone. And I think it was a straight line from the mission of the company to the role that Facebook as an app plays every day to the creative and the campaign. And I think Pooja Didi was a great way for us to bring it all together. A moment that was so true. A lot of the activism, the positive activism of people that we saw on the Facebook app, and rendered in a way that was very Indian, I think, very emotional, very Indian, and very rooted in a cultural code that could have only come out of India.
Absolutely, well said. Connecting the world and helping it grow has been one of Facebook's goals since its inception. The role of marketing in propelling, and so is involvement of the next generation to fulfill it. Hence, in our next segment, we have invited a few MBA students from colleges across India who've come up with interesting marketing ideas for your brand and are really excited to present them to you and would love to know your thoughts on the same. So shall we begin, Ajit? Listen to the first idea, which is from Punyakrit from V School. Punyakrit, all yours.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mohan. It's a pleasure meeting you virtually.
Same here, Punyakrit.
So the campaign that I came up with is today, social media, regardless of being a platform for people to build communities, network, and stick together, has become more of a way for people to escape and feel safe and not worry about the chaos which is happening outside. And to play along the concept of being individualistic while being a part of the community, the campaign that I came up with is Facebook, Ek Secure Dunya. To be truly yourself and yet feel safe in your own dunya, which in this case is a person's Facebook network. In addition, this can highlight the security and privacy features of Facebook as a platform as well.
Punikrit, thank you for spending time thinking about it. There are so many parts of it that I love about it. One, of course, is, I think by referring to the idea of the world, the dunya, right? I think you are going to the heart of what we believe about communities, that in many ways, you are building your world with the connectedness between the people that you care about. I like the fact that you're focused on privacy. I think it's a big part of our focus as a company over the, for the last couple of years. A lot of every product and feature that we now roll comes through the filter of privacy, whether it meets a privacy framework. And the third thing that I like about it is, and I'm curious about whether you thought about it this way, is one of the beliefs that we have is when people feel secure, then they're able to act in an authentic fashion. They're able to represent themselves as who they are. So I like the idea that somewhere embedded in this is idea that you can be secure in being your best version or being in your most authentic version. So I like that as well. But I'm curious whether were you thinking about security from your data is secure, or you can actually be who you are on Facebook?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next up from Micah is Shrithama. So Shrithama, what is your thought?
Hello, Mr. Mohan. It's really great to have a chance to interact with you.
Hi, Shrithama.
So interestingly, a few days back, I stumbled upon this information that globally, Facebook plans to operate completely on renewable energy and also to reduce the carbon footprint. A sustainable way forward is something I'm sure everyone would appreciate and support, which leads me to my campaign thought, #BookTheFuture. I want to promote the message of how, if we continue to live the way we live right now, very few of us will have the ticket to the future. And if you want to book your spot, you need to join the Facebook community and live the sustainable way.
There are two things that I love about it. One, in some ways, you're really saying as a company, double and triple up on our commitment to playing our role on the agenda of limiting climate change. And second, it's also an invite to anyone who cares to say, join us on this mission. So I love both parts of it. The one thing, if I were to build on your idea, Shrithama, that I would is, how can you go specifically and talk about how communities on Facebook, through specific ideas, can actually further the mission. So it is not something that we are doing as a company, for example, right? Renewable energy to power our data centers. It's also what are we all doing in India, for example, to further that agenda. I think the more you can take it to things that people can come together and do, that's where I would take this idea forward. But I love it. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And that was very insightful, Shrithama. And on that note, the last question from my end, Ajit, from single-handedly dominating the social media ecosystem to empowering small businesses, connecting people across the globe, your brand has done it all. Going forward, especially in what we call the new normal, what is the vision for brand Facebook in the future?
I think while again, sort of pushing back gently on the idea of dominance, right? I do feel we have the opportunity to serve a large number of people every day, Aditya, but we also believe that we face a lot of competition every day. And I think to where we started this conversation, unless we are able to keep the bar up, we realize that, there will be a new upstart who will take it all away. But I think in that context, we're very clear about our purpose in India, Aditya, which is we really believe that we can have big positive impact in India for the long term.
Sure.
And whether it is for people whether it's for small businesses. The central mission that influences what we do on the product side, on the business side, and therefore on the brand and marketing side is how can we be an ally for India as it is going through this massive transformation? How can we show up and do right for the country and the communities around the country? And in this particular context, at this particular time when we are going through a big healthcare crisis, I think that question really becomes how can we be helpful? How can we show up and help people in Mumbai and Delhi and in affected communities around the country in terms of leveraging the scale of our platforms to be helpful, to be useful? And that's the larger North Star, both today and for the long term. How can we be an ally for India?
Perfect. Well said. And thus, that comes to an end of our conversation. Ajit, thank you very much for joining us today and for touching up the various aspects of Facebook India that are authentic to it. You've given us a lot to think about. On behalf of the entire team at Kiska brand Bajega, we wish you the best and hope that you keep innovating and finding ways to stay ahead of the curve like always.
You as well, Aditya. Great chatting with you. Thank you so much for having me.
And with that, we come to an end of this season's Kiska brand Bajega Industry Titans edition. We will be back with another exciting season very soon. Until then, this is Aditya Bhatt signing off for now. Stay safe and happy branding.